check out my slide of you so you can see what's going on here. Okay, let's see. So today we are joined by Neil Wade. He is currently a production coordinator at the Fairly OddParents. He graduated with his bachelor's from Washington University at St. Louis in architecture, but had a real interest in anime. And after graduating, went to Japan to teach English, and came back and decided to really pursue that passion for animation. He got an internship at Nickelodeon, and then worked as a PA on Family Guy, and as I said, is currently a production coordinator at the Fairly OddParents. This isn't, you don't want to work for me, do you? Oh, sweet. All right, so that's his Family Guy avatar. So let's close the screen share. There we go. So Neil, how are you doing?
Morning.
Yeah, awesome. You sound way better than I do. So basically, let's start off, we already went through some of the 3 questions. The 3 questions I'd really like for you to answer for the students today is, what do you do? How did you get into it? And, what do you like or love or hate about television? And what recommendations would you offer for any new and burgeoning students?
Gotcha.
So, what do you do? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm a coordinator. No, I'm joking. I'm kind of I work in production, so I'm not doing any of the creative work. And just to be clear, I work at Nickelodeon Animation, so we strictly do the animation. We're not doing any live action work there. But my day-to-day is basically keeping all the artists and artwork organized and getting it to the right people. So for example, my job starts when we record the voices. I make sure that that audio file gets finalized, and I pass that on to our storyboard artists, our directors. From there, they build the storyboards, they kind of tell the story. I make sure that's done on time. I make sure everybody stays on their deadlines, and then I kind of keep things moving along. So the server has to be, organized in a way that all the artists can access what they need, all the directors can access what they need, anyone in the outside department can access what they need. In short, I'm overseeing that entire process until we have all the materials necessary for our animators. Our animators are all overseas, so we prepare a shipment every 2 weeks roughly, and we ship it to our animators. They come back with any questions, and I kind of, again, just watch that process, make sure everything runs smoothly. It never does, but again, that's my job, is to make sure everybody has what they need on time.
Quick question. In a given episode of the Fairly OddParents, which is about 11 minutes, how long does it take from start to finish, and how many hands are actually touching the final product or involved in the final product?
A lot. It's hard to say. Like for a single episode, generally we'll have 3 designers working on it. I guess it kind of goes from design, it goes through my hands, goes to the director, it goes to our art director, it goes to our creator. And then kind of then circulate around within that group of people. So I'd say before our animators, there's probably about 10 people who actually are putting in the work for one episode. From when I receive the audio files until we actually get like returns back, let's see, I'd say almost a year, 8 months to a year, depending on how heavy the show is. It's kind of very nebulous, especially towards the end, because once it gets to our animators, we're getting color files, we're getting black and white files, we're getting tests. That's very, that's not really on quite the same schedule as our design process is. Our design process, again, kind of stays on schedule. It's in our hands for about 4 months before it goes to the animators. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the Fairly OddParents, the show itself. How did you come to actually work on that show, and what do you like about it, or what do you dislike about it? Both working on the show and the show itself.
Gotcha. I'll start with kind of my story. I don't want to get too long, but as you guys know, as Sharice introduced, I started out in the world of architecture because I love to draw, and I thought that was a profession that involved drawing. Of course, that wasn't what I ended up wanting to do. When I got back from Japan, I had already decided I wanted to get into animation. I didn't know much about it, but I picked up and drove to California and figured I'd get a job as an animator. That is impossible. It's not how animation works. I applied to schools for a program, for animation programs, was rejected from all the schools. Chose to go to a junior college where I focused on digital media and kind of wormed my way back into animation just by virtue of the work I was doing. A lot of my instructors saw that the nature of what I did was far more about storytelling, less about graphic design, if you will. So I had an instructor basically tell me that an internship was my best bet. I kind of shot off internship requests to Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, just several different production houses that I liked. Nickelodeon got back to me. I actually was rejected for the internship program the first time around. I got in for the second round, and that's kind of where my career started. Because of my work and the connections I made at Nickelodeon, which was Dora the Explorer was my first internship. They kind of sent my name over to some people at Family Guy. About 6 months after my internship, Family Guy gave me a call, and I started as a production assistant there. Worked there for 2.5 years, and then got a call back from a good friend of mine at Nickelodeon still, and that's how I ended up on Fairly OddParents. I really enjoy working on this show. I think the animation industry is in a very kind of tenuous position right now. Just there's so many kind of challenges. Like it's not the most cost-effective structure. You know, you're asking people, Americans in particular, to sit for hours doing very tedious work for not a whole lot of money, and that's one reason we've outsourced a lot of the actual animation. That said, working with designers, we still have most of our design and pre-production done here, and so I'm working with artists who are very design-oriented, who have a lot of outside kind of projects, and that's probably my favorite part about it, is discovering what so many people do on the side and how that finds its way into like our kind of industrial corporate system, and still not killing their spirit. When I say things are kind of tenuous, that whole atmosphere is changing, whereas these animation houses used to be a lot of fun, and guys jumping around, and even at Family Guy, you know, we'd have guys walking around the office in their underwear every once in a while. We're kind of losing that kind of fun feel because money is so tight, and also they're finding it's cheaper to have smaller and smaller teams. Some of you may be familiar with some of the Cartoon Network shows, and you'll see that they've done a lot of them are very simple in their artwork. They're very simple in like their style. And it's because, whereas we used to have designers in multiple different fields, so we have a background designer, a character designer, a prop designer, a vehicle designer. Well, they're finding like, well, we can get one guy that'll do all those designs for us, and it'll be cheaper and it'll be faster because we're not doing Walt Disney style animation. And so a lot of the studios are just really paring down who they're actually drawing onto their team, and you're kind of seeing it in a lot of the animation you on television now. To bring it back to me, sorry, I kind of went on a tangent. Like I said, I enjoy working with artists. I enjoy seeing this entire process for a product that I love. I'm a huge fan of animation. I always have been, and I love that I can have there's a pretty immediate reward for my efforts. I know that all the work I'm doing, within a few months, I can see the result of that, and I can be like, yes, I did that show. I know exactly what went into getting this scene done. So just kind of for me personally, I enjoy that kind of immediate gratification. I enjoy working with artists. I enjoy that I make cartoons, and that when I talk to 7-year-olds and mention Timmy Turner, they go crazy, their eyes light up, and like that really genuinely makes you feel good, as cheesy as it sounds. For the show itself, are any of you guys fans of Fairly OddParents at all?
Can you guys show of hands? This I've trained the camera around so you can see the classroom.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yay. Well, I probably didn't work on a lot of episodes that you guys have seen, but what I love about the show is the whole premise is here's this kid with this very powerful resource. He has these fairies who will grant any wish he wants. And so, you know, he's a typical kid. He hates homework. He makes silly mistakes. But the show is really about making those mistakes and then having to learn how to be responsible with the power that you have. That may be looking a little deeper into it, but, you know, that's, for me, that is the joy of the show, is that you can, you know, what are you going to do to actually, if you have this power, yeah, you can make whatever you want. You can make a world full of cake and eat cake all day, but what's the result of that? How do you deal with those consequences? And how do you learn to be responsible with your power afterwards? So, to me, that's the real virtue of Fairly OddParents. And it's just a beautiful show. I just love watching it. I love it has really flat, bright colors and easy to follow. The storytelling is always really clever. It's very layered. So, even if you're 25 and you're watching it, you're going to get a message and you're going to catch a few jokes that the 7-year-olds won't. So that's probably, those are probably my favorite things about being on this show right now. What's the other question? I'm sorry.
I don't remember, but that's really great. I'll turn around so you can see me, so I'm not a voiceless, headless voice. So we have a lot of non-medium majors in the classroom, and I would really love for you to talk a little bit about how, well, before we do that, how many of you would like a career in television? Put that out there, because you're all taking the class, right? So there's a good chunk of people who would like a career in television. So I'm curious, I would really like for you to talk about how or what you drew from your architecture degree into your day-to-day work, and thinking about it from an interdisciplinary perspective, what can people from other majors offer to television to make them a unique candidate?
Yeah, one thing I like to talk, you know, especially when I'm talking to interns and younger people about my story, it's like I started out in a completely different world than where I ended up. So I stress people that there's always a place for them. You know, kind of in like a big part of working in any industry is going to be about about relationships. I think learning how to see a project from beginning to end was really important. Learning that you have to kind of create structure has been huge. In architecture, it's all about planning and structure. Like, that's literally what architecture is. But even how to get that project done comes down to structure. So you have to have your early plan, you're doing, you know, just really, really rough sketches or really rough models. Well, you know, in animation, that's where things start. You start with a rough storyboard. You know, and then, you know, you start refining, you're communicating with multiple departments, and I have to talk to an engineer here or somebody who's better with math. And it's all about these relationships you create so that you can get your product completed. And that's what being a coordinator is. I'm constantly, like, the majority of my job is sending emails, you know, and, you know, organizing a server and pointing people to the right place for things. That's very much a function of this technology that we have, but that's, again, production is just following this order and also knowing how to kind of anticipate things. I mean, you know, architecture, when I was, you know, building a model, I just would always make sure I was anticipating, you know, maybe the wood shop won't be open, or maybe I won't have all the materials I need right on time. Well, it's like anticipating that and knowing how to troubleshoot. With television animation, that's a huge deal. Like, we're on very tight schedules. If an artist rises sick and isn't there to do a revision on a design, you have to come up with a plan. You have to have things in place to immediately solve that problem. I would say a lot of design elements, you know, whatever realm of design and visuals you're in, kind of cut across the board. So again, back to architecture having kind of starting with a rough and then refining it and having a clean version. Animation is the same way. You start with rough designs, rough storyboards. It goes to another guy who cleans it up. You go to the art director, he approves it or makes notes. It goes back. It's having these structures in place that were coming in handy for me with animation, and even working in television in particular. Again, anticipation. I mean, it's just this world of all these moving parts. There's always fire put out. There's always things there's always an unexpected occurrence that you have to be ready for. You get better with time, but I can tell you when I was still a PA at Family Guy, there were so many. I'm trying to give you a good example. There's episodes where we'll send something to Korea, and they'll send back. People are typing. They're typing on computers incorrectly, so we have to send video reference to somebody typing so that they can follow. And it's like, who would ever expect that? People type around the world, but all of a sudden for this one element, there's something that wasn't coming through. Another thing that's important, and will probably be more important for you guys, is that there are a lot of entertainment across the board is outsourcing. So most television animation, for example, is done in Taiwan or Korea, and generally these houses, there may be 2 or 3 people there that speak English who are translating everything we send. That's something that anytime I send an email, I have to be very careful about my wording, very careful that it's not too involved, and that it's very clear. And still, we get questions every day. That's a lot of the first thing I do with my job is check my email, and usually there are 3 or 4 questions from our Korean animators that I have to troubleshoot for whatever reason. Sometimes they're very simple, sometimes they're very complex. Usually it's just a miscommunication across culture or language or something like that. So I guess to wrap it all up, I'd say start just being aware of how you communicate and how you build relationships. That I can't stress that enough. Another thing is when you come into a place like LA in general, the moment you walk into a building in a professional capacity, people are talking about you, people know you. It's a very small world. So and everything happens through relationships. Everything from my internship on up came from a relationship from the previous place. So, I got the Family Guy job because of a production assistant I interned with at Dora the Explorer. And then I got the job back at Nickelodeon because of my relationship with the human resources manager here at Nickelodeon. So, and then even now, I get calls from people from Family Guy and all over the place, and I'm referring people that I've worked with, or I get a call and somebody says I referred them. Building these relationships, being very cognizant of how you're being viewed is important. And I'll kind of leave it at that. I don't know if you guys have more questions. So.
That's good. I have a couple more questions before we open it up to the floor. I would really like for you to talk about, so do we have any Family Guy fans? Anybody? Yeah, Family Guy fans? So I would really love for you to talk a little bit about Family Guy versus the Fairly OddParents. What is, not just the content, but in the operating room, which is the wrong term, in the process, what is similar, what is different between an 11-minute children's show and a 22-minute adult show? And if maybe you could share how those shows might be connected because of their showrunners, that might also be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I will start talking about the showrunners. So most of you probably know that Seth MacFarlane is the creator and showrunner for Family Guy. And for Fairly OddParents, showrunner is Butch Harden. And they actually moved to LA they were roommates in LA in their early days, and there's a kind of friendly rivalry between the 2 of them. They're both huge in their own realms. Seth, obviously, working in prime time and working for adults is more well-known, whereas Butch, behind the scenes, in the world of animation, in the world of children's animation, people, if I say Butch Harden, people know, oh yeah, he's a really great guy. He is a really great guy. I find it interesting that Seth is still kind of this party guy bachelor as far as we know, and Butch is like this born-again Christian, very kind of straight edge kind of guy. But you do feel the difference in the shows. They're both very meticulous in how they operate. So in terms of similarities, of course they have final say in their respective shows, but they're both the same in that we can watch an episode, and Seth will say, stop it at, a minute 34 seconds. And we'll stop you like, that guy in the background behind the tree, his shoes have 2 red stripes on them, and I want them to be purple. I mean, everyone will be like, how do you even see that, And Butch is the same way. He can watch an episode and catch a shot that's, half a second long, and he'll have to stop it, and we have to go back and redesign the character because he doesn't like the color or doesn't like the eyes. Like, they are very meticulous about how their show looks. And that trickles down in how we operate. At the same time, Family Guy is a very adult show, and so The Office, it reflects that. You know, you hear there's very crude jokes flying around all the time. There's definitely less organization at Family Guy. It's more kind of a, hey, let's get this show done. What do we got to do? So each department, you know, when I was a PA, for example, at Family Guy, I was doing work that I do as a coordinator now. It wasn't so much about, you know, these regiments, you're a coordinator, here's your coordinator job, do these coordinator things. They would kind of hand us, you know, our storyboards and be like, hey guys, just get it done on time. And so my boss at the time would be like, all right, dude, today you're gonna do come and work on timing. And he'd tell the other PA, you're gonna work on dialogue, you're gonna sit on this meeting, this and that. It was just kind of, however it had to get done, you got it done. When I moved over to Fairly OddParents, they're like, well, you know, on Wednesdays we have a color meeting, on Fridays we have shipments, on Mondays we have a production meeting. And adjusting to that order for me actually was kind of a struggle. But now that I'm looking back, I can see it completely reflects the personalities of the showrunners. Especially with Seth now moving into film and TV and these other projects, the show is becoming less and less structured in terms of the work experience. On the flip side, Butch Hartman shows have a reputation for, you know exactly what you're going to be doing each day. Outside of those emails I get from Korea. Let's see. Family Guy, like I said, I got away with a lot more. There's a lot, you know, you can run around and cuss, and you know, I was make references and things like that in the hallways that are, of course, they're for adults. At Nickelodeon, I'm constantly watching my language. You know, there's kids coming in for auditions. There's kids doing tours. There's just it's a lighter feel because it's Nickelodeon. But you just, you know, you're on your P's and Q's a little bit more. Also, Nickelodeon is much more corporate kind of atmosphere. We have a lot more, I guess I'd say, network executives who are in our immediate vicinity. So, you know, you are acting more professionally, if you will. At Family Guy, it was kind of an independent office. It was Seth's own location. So all of the executives from Fox and whatever were in a different place. And that just allowed for a little more of a carefree feeling on the staff there. So that's, yeah, those kinds of the differences I'd say in my experience so far. I've enjoyed them both. I find that I do prefer to work in a smaller kind of environment, but even now in Nickelodeon, because Nickelodeon animation, it's small enough that I still feel like I have my hand in the pot and I understand and have my pulse on what's going on in the animation world overall.